pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll with planet. Water towers, fly! Spotted downside of speed off. Speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
All right, folks, y'all know the drill. We are standing by for another NASA Spaceflight live stream. Got some special guests on with us today, but let's see. Let's roll the intro video again, I guess. Let's see if we've got a video signal live from Port Canaveral. I'm John Galloway with NASA Spaceflight. You can see, hopefully, let me know, 5x5, the live feed here from Port Canaveral, Florida, where we are standing by for the return of booster 1060-3. So just out the end of the port here, we should be seeing the booster very shortly. Got some special guests on to provide some commentary. Also aware of the video hiccups. You can see every now and then we're getting some video hiccups. We may be overloading the camera just a little bit, so I'll be managing that in the background. But let's get introduced to our special guests here today. With me on the line, we've got none other than Chris Bergen, NASA Spaceflight Actual. Chris, do we have you on audio right now?
Good evening.
All right. Excellent. So Chris is the managing editor and founder for NASASpaceflight.com. He will be joining us all the way from across the pond to let us know what's we're seeing over here in port, and then also making their inaugural first appearance on NASA Spaceflight live streams here. We've got Gavin from SpaceX Fleet over on Twitter. I don't even know what else to say that. How to introduce you, Gavin? Do we have you on audio?
Hello, good evening.
All right. How do I introduce you? I've never introduced you before. It says tracking the SpaceX ships that don't go to space. What do you do?
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. That's the tagline. I do exactly that. I run spacexfleet.com. I also do Twitter, SpaceX Fleet updates. I see chat is full of people saying Gavin ! So hopefully people know who I am.
Well, I was saying I feel like I need to hold up 2 lanterns as they're coming in by the sea here, since the entire stream is filled with British people.
I'll tell you what, when Gavin started speaking, it felt like a Mary stream where Mary suddenly starts talking on the stream. Everyone goes, Mary, Mary. So I think Gavin know who he is, yeah.
Gavin and Chris will be joining us, doing most of the commentary. I'll be quiet as I work on the camera feed issue here. But Gavin, Chris, take it away. Let us know why it is we're staring at a little light pole shepherd's crook, whatever the thing is there.
Well, I'll tell you what, this will be quite a good stream because Gavin's all about this fleet and the ships, and I'm still learning about those things. Got to be honest, I'm really fascinated by them. I wouldn't normally be into this sort of thing, you know, the actual boats, the ships. But SpaceX Fleet is crazy. I mean, we've got the fairing catchers, we've got the drone ships, we've got the tugs, we've got all sorts of dragon recovery ships. Tell you what, Gavin, if you want to talk through some of your favourite ships, that might be a good idea to start with.
Yeah, before we do that, if people were to look through the restaurant windows on the very right, they might just about see a tugboat, which is Lauren Foss, who is currently towing Just Read the Instructions drone ship. Just sneaking through the restaurant windows.
You got to imagine what those people in the restaurant must be thinking. If they're not really aware of these things, they're probably going, do you want to go down to Port Canaveral for a bit of lunch? Yeah, I'll meet you there. Nothing else happening, is there? No, what the hell's that?
Absolutely. So we've got GRT drone ship coming in, but already in port the last 24, 48 hours, we've had a whole load of ships come in. So last night we had Mystery and Mischief come in. They have been out for quite a while now. They both came back with 2 fairings each. That was good recovery all round. Mischief had the fairings from the mission on Saturday, and then Mystery had the fairings from the mission on, what was it now, October 18th? Yeah.
We've had 2 of these launches come in quick succession, but the fairings all came back within like 12 hours of each other. And
Mystery and Mischief, they are really fast ships. They go 2 or 3 times as fast as the drone ship moves.
Is it correct to call them speedboats?
They're officially fast support vessels, FSVs.
Right. because we've seen some pictures of them, some video of them maneuvering in, and they are literally like massive speedboats to me, and they really could pick up some speed. I think on the SpaceX webcast they showed, I can't remember which one it was, but one of the fairing catchers literally full steam ahead, and it was putting up some weight behind it, so there's some speed behind it.
Oh yes, on the webcast at the weekend where we had Mischief going downrange, they actually did show the clip you're mentioning about where the ship was going really fast, just powering along. They were still heading downrange to the splashdown site for the fairing at that point. So because they weren't there, they were really hammering. They were going 90 knots, which for a vessel of that size, that's really fast.
Yeah. And of course, the thing about the fairing record, I will be really quick here because we can see they're starting to arrive now. But we've got people asking why fairings. What's the big deal about fairings? They're just like the top bits, the flappy bits, which come off surround the payload. But as Elon put it, it's like catching pallets of cash from the sky, because they are expensive. They're millions of dollars. So these companies that normally throw them away have just got into that kind of routine of throwing them away and thinking nothing much of them. But SpaceX have thought we can probably make this viable where we can recover them and reuse them. And that is saving millions of dollars. So yeah, there's a lot behind this. It's not a perfect technology. We've seen them wave off attempts to catch the fairings because of the conditions. We've also seen some fairings, like the recent one, which kind of like crashed into the side of the net and broke the net. But that's got a little bit of a dent inside of it. But I think they can recover that one. But it's just a lot of money involved. So I think it is becoming very viable for SpaceX to really continue these operations.
And Chris and Gavin, if you look through the window there, you can see the booster just starting to come around the corner.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to finish with my sentence really fast, because it really is impressive. And I keep going back to these diners thinking, what the heck's that?
Who installed a chimney on their restaurant, like just barely sticking over the top of it there?
And this booster is very special because this is the 100th successful launch for SpaceX. B1060. So it's flown 3 times. It's 3rd time back to Earth, which again is something surreal if you've been following spaceflight for as many years as I have, that they are recovering boosters, because it has become routine. And routine is a terrible word in spaceflight because that's where it catches you out. But it really has become routine in the sense of their recovery operations now. So this is something special where it's not only the 100th mission, 100th successful mission for SpaceX, but also the 3rd recovery of this booster, and it's going to be used again. So it's all proving this reusability concept, which is so important for the viability of the way SpaceX is moving forward, especially when you translate that into Starship, which Starship is a fully reusable vehicle. And there's the tug, Gavin, isn't it? Yeah, it's just coming through now. So.
That is Tug Christine S, the red and sort of dark yellow, orangey tugboat you see coming through at the front now, just to the left of the restaurant windows. And then behind that, you can sort of see it. There's a big green tugboat, kind of make out the windows on it, and the smokestack coming out the top. That is Lauren Foss, who was actually towing, just read the instructions, drone ship. And behind that, kind of blocked by the restaurant, you can just kind of see a bit of it peeking out at the top and through the windows. There is B1060-3 coming into just Port Canaveral.
We get a good sense of the scale here because these boosters are not small. They are big rockets. And I think we've seen some very good comparisons where the workers are working near the base of the vehicle to give some kind of scale. But they are huge vehicles, and this is coming through now. It's going to come across the top of the roof of that restaurant. I am still watching those people inside, seeing if they'll start standing up, taking notice. Or they could be regulars to that restaurant and just used to this by now, which would be even more surreal to me, that they're actually used to these things happening at Port Canaveral.
There must be some people at the port that are just getting used to seeing this spectacle come for every couple of weeks now.
And hopefully we'll see some little things when we get close to the camera, things like Octograbber, which is another thing I really found that fascinating when we first heard about this robot, which lives in the garage on the drone ship, and it pops out after the booster's landed, grabs hold of the booster by the aft, and secures it. Because before, I believe the process was to literally weld the feet to the deck so that it wouldn't fall off the side of the actual drone ship in the high seas or anything like that. So this little robot, they've got two of them now, which rolls out this garage and grabs hold of the booster. We'll see it as they come into shot on this view here, and we'll see it grabbing hold of the Falcon 9. They've got to release the hold before they can lift the booster.
Yeah, so this is actually, just read the instructions. It's only its fourth mission with an Octograbber robot. Because obviously, just read the instructions, drone ship was based in California, doing all the West Coast missions for quite a while. And the entire time it was over there, it never had an Octograbber robot. So they were doing that method you mentioned, where they get chains out and they weld mounting points to the landing surface and then secure it that way. That's really time intensive. So when they brought the drone ship over to the Atlantic Ocean to base it at Port Canaveral, one of the upgrades they did was they installed it with a brand new Octograbber robot. It's slightly different to the one on Of Course I Still Love You, but fundamentally they both do the same job of just speeding up the process of recovery and just making it a lot quicker and safer for the guys that are working out there next to a rocket in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, because it is really a safety issue where, if you can imagine, there's some rough seas and they're trying to secure the booster with humans on board that deck. That thing falls over, it's not good. And we've seen one recovery where one of the legs got crushed on the crush course, and it was wobbling all over the deck. That was literally, they couldn't do anything about that one. I think it was a THICOM mission.
Yeah, I think it was Firecom 8, was it? Something like that.
Yeah, it's like, go home, booster, you're drunk. And here we come. They're coming into view now. They're going to come past that restaurant window, and we'll get to see this sooty booster in all her glory.
Yeah, so we're getting a great view of tugboat Lauren Foss, which is the green tug we see at the front, and behind that we see coming just into view is the drone ship with the booster on top. What we should also see, following up behind the drone ship and more towards the right, there'll be a few more. What we should also see, following.
Hey, mic check. Did we just lose Gav there?
I'm still there if my mic's still working.
I lost you for a moment.
Oh,
okay, good deal. Yeah.
We all went a bit silent.
Just checking in.
We've been
You're getting rid of me already, are you?
I have a button, just in case you misbehave. I do have a button, but you're good so far.
Oh wow, we've got a moderator mute button in case I get too crazy.
It's actually a big shepherd's crook. We pull you off the stream, like.
Yeah.
Just in case I get too excited about the drone ship coming in. Yeah, so we can now see the entire booster fully in view for the first time.
And y'all, in terms of the camera here, I'm just going to let the booster sort of go all the way off the screen, then I'll reframe it. We'll let it drive by. We're sort of using one camera to both do time lapses for like video update stuff and this, so I'm not trying to track it as we go through. But we'll have plenty of time to zoom in on this thing whenever it berths over at the cargo pier, which is where they're taking it, hopefully.
I was going to give a quick shout out to a couple of super chats. We've got one from Thomas who says, awesome show. Any thoughts on the Starlink public beta? That's an interesting question because they did last night reveal there's a public beta for Starlink, but it's at cost. I think it's $500 for the array and the router, and $99 a month for the actual package. To be fair, if someone offered me that, it'd be what, about 400 quid, 500 maybe in total, I'd probably go for it because the speeds they're starting with are up to BT Telecom speeds. So it's something that would be appealing. But I think the big thing is a beta, and they said there will be dropouts, and that's something that will put me off straight away. But hopefully by next year they'll have a worldwide service if these boosters keep doing these launches and they get enough Starlinks out there. So my thoughts are, hopeful and positive, and I do like it. And I think because if you're into rockets and stuff, you might be slightly appealed to go towards something from SpaceX. That's more appealing than, say, a normal internet provider. And we got a question from Infinite Puffin. That's something he just says, welcome back 1060. So thanks very much for your support, both of you guys I've just read out there, both for super chats, very much appreciated. And welcome back indeed. And we are now seeing her on in full glory. And we've got Rough Rider show straight in before I even finish that sentence with if NRO 44 delays more and gets close to CRS 21, would CRS 21 have range priority over NRO? Oh, that's a really good question, because NRO do have range priority for obvious reasons, but would a CRS mission to the ISS trump that? You know what? I'm gonna ask people in chat if they think what they think, because I'm gonna try and find out for sure. But that is a very good question.
And again, y'all, if you're seeing the infrequent video hiccups, we're aware of that. We're asking the camera to do a little bit too much right now, but we are aware of that. It's nice and smooth most of the time, and then the camera realizes that we're pulling 3 full quality feeds off of it, and it becomes unhappy with me. So,
to be fair, it's only been a couple of dropouts, and it's been really impressive so far. So I'm really enjoying this, and just for people who are not too aware about why this rocket looks so dirty. It's not actually, we call it a sooty booster, but I think Elon gets quite annoyed by people calling it sooty for some reason. It's just basically what we're seeing is the battle scars, which is dirty, but they could wash it off. They could take it back to a white booster again, but there's just no point. It is literally just from their landings, and all you'll see is when they go back to the pad for the next launches, you'll see some lines. They're the weld points, so they check the weld points by rubbing off all the dirt and the soot and all the other grime this booster's been covered in. And they'll just check the welds. That's all they're going to do, check the weld lines. Everything else, they can leave it as is and just basically check the engines are okay and then put it back out onto the pad. That's the whole purpose of reusability.
that antenna, I want to go out there and like move that antenna to another part of the building. I think it's, you know how at a restaurant they have little earpieces and they're like, okay, table 6, seat somebody here. I think that's what that antenna's for. It's right there in the way. Jeez. That, and if that pergola burns down, I'm not, sorry, Rusty's.
Pray tell, guys, what restaurant is that? Is it Rusty's?
It's Rusty's.
Oh, I really,
bar.
when I go to Port Canaveral, I really do want to go to Rusty's and see what food they have on offer. Oh, there's an advert for it. Wow, that was really fast, guys.
Like magic.
Like magic. It's actually voice activated. You mentioned Rusty's out loud, and it magically appears on the screen. So, yeah. But no, I mean, Rusty's is the restaurant that gave us permission to install the camera. They were so gracious, and they're providing power for it. We've got a dedicated internet connection there for it. But if you go to Port Canaveral and you're eating out on the deck right below the camera, there's a big outdoor eating area. You can watch this sort of stuff happening at Rusty's. So massive thanks to Rusty's, the Fleet Camp partner at Port Canaveral. Back to you.
We just need a jingle behind that now, do we?
Yeah, we need a jingle. Nice.
Rusty's our official partner. And we've got a new member, Anita. Welcome to the gang. Very much appreciate you becoming a member. Plenty of benefits for you coming your way. Need a jingle for that.
It's like a table for one. What should I put the name under? B1060.
I'll tell you what, Andrew Carmel, who everyone knows by now in our chat from his crazy super chats, he asked a normal question for once, which I very much appreciate. He goes, "How is the food at Rusty's?" Now, you know what? That's part of what we were talking about earlier, but that must be amazing going down. Say if you're working around this area and you go, "Let's go to Port Canaveral to one of the seafood restaurants for lunch," and then you see this. I'll tell you what, it's appealing. It's more appealing than what you get in Leeds. I can guarantee you that's true. So what about these drone ships? These drone ships are impressive. They don't get as much appreciation or in the spotlight as the boosters and even the fairing catchers. I would say the fairing catchers are somewhat more famous in some ways, but these drone ships, they do amazing work because you see them being pulled by a tug right now. But when they're out there, and waiting for this booster to come back. They've got these four. You can talk about this, Gav. These four stabilization things, propeller things, which keep them stable and keep them in the same position, so the booster has less of a job to try and track where it's got to land. But I don't know if you know much more about the thrusters, Gavin. You can talk about that.
Yeah, so Just Read Instructions has recently had an upgrade. So if you look on the near side corner of the drone ship, you'll kind of see a black, smooth, sort of circular thing. That is one of the 4 thruster pods. There's one of those on each corner. And inside that pod, there are large thrusters. They're about the height of 2 men. So they're about, I think, 12 to 13 foot high inside there. We don't know how powerful they are in terms of horsepower, because that's a SpaceX thing. They're hardly going to tell us that. But what they do is, once the drone ship is in position, they release these tugboats that are currently towing it, and those thrusters keep it in that precise position. So if you think about it, if you leave the drone ship just at sea on its own, it will just slowly drift with the waves, and it will completely drift out of position of where the booster's targeted for. So you have the thrusters. They just rotate around in the water, and they just maintain it in position. Now, those thruster pods, they require some serious power behind them to keep them going. So as Das conveniently turns the camera, we'll get a good look behind. It's just coming to view now. Behind the shamrock, you'll see. Oh, you've just panned away. That's
Here we go.
why.
Here we go. I was trying
Yeah.
to get the front one, but here's the rear one.
Yeah, behind the shamrock that's just coming into view now, you'll see there's some grills there. So there are 6 of those on board. They are the generator sets that power up the thruster pods. We don't know the exact configuration, but there's 6 of those generator sets on board. So the educated guess would be that there are 1 per thruster with 2 spares for redundancy, is what we think. And then there is also electrical power systems on board as well that keep those going. Now, just read the instructions, thrusters have a serious upgrade over, of course, I still love use thruster pods, because the thrusters on, of course, I still love you, they are much smaller. You can actually see those ones. They're not encased in pods. They are blue. If you've ever seen the drone ship come in on all 4 sides of course, I love you, there's these blue thin pods.
Yeah.
They actually retract into the water when they're in operation, which is different to Just Read Instructions thrusters, which are always submerged in the water.
I'm trying to do the thing where the booster goes all the way across the camera, but the first time I didn't zoom out enough. It looks like this time I didn't zoom out enough either. You gotta keep zooming out to fit the whole thing on the screen. Jeez. We'll try one more time.
No, we've got a lot of chat questions, but I'm going to go through them once this thing has got past this key event of going past us on the camera, because we want to spot out certain things as we see them. So, but I will get to the questions afterwards straight away.
This is sort of our partial loss of video line of sight here. We have that wooden pergola I've sort of hidden down at the bottom, but all those little bird scary bits that are supposed to scare the birds off, they don't really scare the birds off. But we can't see the drone ship in this shot, so we have to sort of pan towards the sky. Normally the regular ships, we just see their bridge sort of go past, but here with the booster, you can see the entire booster go right past. Look at that.
So impressive. Especially,
it's just an amazing sight to see.
Yeah, I like how they placed the SpaceX and the Falcon 9 and the US flag just conveniently towards our camera. Very nice of them. Thanks, SpaceX.
It's going to go off the top, isn't it? Oh, it's just barely going to go off the top. Like a few pixels. I'll live, I guess.
I'm just setting up my screen recorder thing so I can take a view of this once it gets past that roofing. It's quite a busy place, Port Canaveral, isn't it? Because you can see all the industry that's in there. All the cruise ships. I mean, normally with it, if it wasn't this 2020 situation, there'd be a lot of cruise ships there, wouldn't there, sir?
Yeah, there'd normally be 5 or 6 cruise ships coming in a day. Now, the way Port Canaveral normally works is that cruise ships take priority. which means when a drone ship's coming in first thing in the morning, they often have to sort of sit around and wait outside the port. Which, on the plus side, for people wanting to see it, they can get up a bit later in the morning, because normally it's an early start, 6, 7 a.m. But nowadays, all the cruise ships just aren't running, and they're not actually here at the moment, so the drone ship pretty much comes in first thing in the morning when it wants to. And we're getting some great views now. So what you can see on the back is there's a tug Eagle, which is pushing on the stern of the drone ship, and on the left-hand side, you can just about see it still, there is a smaller white tug, Elizabeth S, which will be used when they berth the drone ship in a moment, where you see that grey crane, which has kind of got a red and white boom on it. That's where they're going to park the drone ship shortly.
Gavin, you may be able to help me out with this one. I saw somebody mention this in chat, and I wondered if it was true. The tug that's pointing backwards, do they always have a tug pointing backwards because they can sort of brake the drone ship a little bit easier, like slow it down with the tug going forwards, pulling it backwards? Is that true, or is that just backwards because it's backwards? Do you know?
I've only ever seen, so that's at the back of that's Tug Eagle. I've only ever seen Tug Eagle do that little maneuver where it backs up in reverse like that. The other tug you can see on the screen, the red and orange and yellow one, that's Christine S. When she takes on this role of backing up on the stern, she goes in forwards. It's just a thing with Tug Eagle. I don't quite know why they do it. We might have to ask them one day, but yeah, just backing up in style.
Yeah. That's
so,
cool.
So today we had, a little while ago before the live stream went on, we had a GoQuest coming, which is the green ship. That has the crew on, and what they do is something called crew transfer. When GoQuest comes back at the same time as the drone ship, they transfer the crew from GoQuest onto the drone ship for the arrival. Now they do that because they need people on the drone ship itself to sort of handle the mooring lines and just keep an eye on how everything's going. Now, when SpaceX has a double-stacked mission and GoQuest has to stay out at sea, what they do is they pop crew onto one of these support tugs. So where Tug Eagle currently is, they pop 7 or 8 crew onto that tugboat, and they sort of just climb on board. I think NASASpaceflight have actually caught that a few times on the live stream, haven't you guys?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, it's quite a spectacle to see when they just sort of just jump off from one boat to the other.
I'm just doing an excited tweet with your name in it, sir. With your Twitter handle in it, sir. People will go crazy. Go, my God, oh, good God, because you are famous. I won't have any people saying you're not. You. There we go. Because again, I've said before, I wouldn't know I'd be into this sort of thing. Dock port operations. It's not my thing. I'm into rockets. So the fact that these rockets coming back have educated me more on the ships, which is, a bonus thing to learn. And I'm sure there's probably people who are mostly just into the ships who are now more educated into rockets. It's kind of funny, the synergy, how it worked. I mean, what's your background, Gav? Were you always into rockets to start with, or was you always into ships before, or what was your history behind this?
Oh, really? I sort of got interested in sort of what SpaceX was doing in sort of 2016 kind of time. I don't quite remember what my first launch was, but I'll tell you what did it for me. The Falcon Heavy demo, obviously the center core on the demo mission in 2018, that crashed and just missed the drone ship by not too far. I was just watching that, and I was just wondering to myself, how did the drone ship get to that position? And I just thought, that's just a curious thing. Why is there a drone ship there? If it had been a few meters more to the right or left, would it have caught it? And so from there, I just started doing a bit of research. And I sort of found there was this sort of gap in sort of SpaceX knowledge of how recovery operations sort of are going, because these recovery ships, all we see on the webcast is you see a brief clip from the fairing catchers or the drone ship with a couple of minutes to go before launch. And you just sort of have to sometimes sit there and wonder, well, how did they get there? Where do they come from? Where are they going next? And so I sort of just started researching into that. And once I sort of was happy I'd found all the right answers, I thought, hey, maybe other people would be interested in listening and learning about this. And so I sort of started tracking them and doing updates on Twitter, that ballooned out into a website. And a couple of years later, here we are. And everyone seems to enjoy this. There's now a fleet cam.
Yeah.
So things must be going well.
Yeah, it's funny because you've got 27,600 followers, and
That's a
this
big
is for SpaceX fleet, so it just shows.
Yeah, I just talk
level of
about
interest.
boats and ships.
Yeah.
That's not very interesting.
It's funny because there's so much crossover, as I mentioned. But you mentioned the first recoveries, which didn't go so well, but they showed promise. And SpaceX did that comedy video showing how not to land an orbital rocket, and we then saw on this landing, the camera got shook around so much on its gimbal that for a good 2 or 3 seconds we were thinking, oh, that one's gone wrong. Because it really did. It did come back with the landing legs coming down, and obviously with the single engine landing bird, we thought that has gone wrong, but it wasn't. It was just the camera, and suddenly the camera stabilized, and we saw this booster right in the bullseye. And we're thinking that's just showing off now. Come on.
Yeah, heart skipped a beat there. They were just messing us with that time with shaky cam. That was a really terrifying few moments.
I thought it was falling over. Like the camera tilted a little bit.
Yeah.
And I thought the booster was tipping over and again going to fall off the edge of the drone ship. And then it cleared up. The pixels came back, and you could see that it was the camera that actually fell over, not the booster.
I wonder if there's somebody, either Jammy or someone, thinking, let's just put this on a bit more of a looser gimbal and just give them a bit of a surprise. Just keep them awake. Make sure they're paying attention. Yeah.
It was programmed to do that.
Yeah. And speaking of booster landings, we have some questions. If I can stop closing the wrong window. There we go. Do you think the boosters from Falcon Heavy next year will come back at the same time? Would be cool. Now, there's 2 ways to answer that. If they're going for LZ1, LZ2, they do come back at the same time technically, but there is a few seconds between them. So we know that from the previous ones. They do bring them back together, the 2 side boosters. We know the central booster, the center booster, does come back later because obviously it's still burning when the side boosters separate. So it's got a longer way to go before it goes through its recovery process of landing. And that would be a drone ship recovery as far as we know. We keep hearing, Gavin, in fact, I'll bring you in on this. We keep hearing of the potential of 2 drone ships at the same time involved in Falcon Heavy. I don't know if you've heard anything about that, if it's realistic or why would they even do that. Where they just recover them all at sea because they'd need that 3rd drone ship, wouldn't they? The Gravitas drone ship.
Yeah, a short flow Gravitas, which is the sort of elusive 3rd drone ship that Elon sort of teases everyone with on Twitter every few months or so.
And nobody knows where it is.
Yeah, no one seems to know where it is. It is a mystery. It might just be Elon sort of messing with us. One day we might see it. But sort of going back to the Falcon Heavy profile, what we could see is potentially, depending on the mission profile they go with the mission, we could see the 2 side boosters on the Falcon Heavy both of them land at sea downrange. Now, until we see it happen, it's hard to know how close they might want to land those 2 boosters on 2 separate drone ships, and then how they go about bringing them back, because that would be a huge logistical operation. If you think about the fact they have to secure and process 2 boosters at the same time offshore, it will be really interesting to see how that goes about happening. Now, if that does happen and they successfully land both side boosters at sea, they could bring them back, and we could end up seeing an even more spectacular thing than what we're seeing today, in that we see 2 boosters offshore together at the same time. That would just be
yeah, that'd be impressive.
Absurd to see. Now, I think logistically they won't be able to bring them into Port Canaveral at the same time because they've only got a certain amount of tugboats and people, and they need all of those to do 1 drone ship at a time. So what you'd probably see, if it happens, and there's a lot of ifs here, you'd see them bring 1 in, wait a bit of time, make sure that one's all secure, maybe take off the drone ship, and then bring the 2nd one in. But there is potential that one day soon we might end up seeing 2 Falcon 9 boosters arriving at Port Canaveral pretty close to the same time.
And the reason why they'd use that rather than just using LZ1, LZ2 is more performance. So that's why when they bring them back to land, they've got the extra performance to allow for that boost back and to return to land. It is easier to return to land, by the way. We always were told that the drone ship recoveries would have a 20% failure rate because it is so hard to do, but they've been so successful. I think the next time they do lose a booster, which probably will happen at one point, people will be all, oh no, they've lost a booster. It'll be all dramatic, but they actually did compensate. They didn't expect that. It was in their planning to start with. I think now they may have refined it, knowing that they've got such a good process going with it. But drone ship recoveries are very hard. So to alternate between LZ1, LZ2 for a Falcon Heavy, to then drone ships would be for payload reasons, where they've got a really heavy payload, need performance. So that's the reason for why that chatter came up. Now, Astro 6 asks, with $2, thank you very much, any way to compare the full stack Starship with the Falcon 9? Now, yes, there would be, but we'd have to pan this camera right back. So we'd have enough space to be able to superimpose, which we're not going to do now, but we'd be able to superimpose a full stack Starship next to it. And I'm talking before the booster. I'm talking before adding the super heavy booster here. These are huge vehicles. So when we see a full stack super heavy Starship vehicle, it would dwarf this Falcon 9 booster. It really would. We're talking about a vehicle bigger than the Saturn, taller than the Saturn V. It is a huge rocket. And I think when people see the prototype super heavy on that orbital test stand at Boca Chica, they will be surprised. They'll know it's going to be large. They'll expect it to be large, but when they see it, and probably with people next to it on cranes, they will be shocked. It is a huge, huge booster. Now, Bill Hitchcock, he says, okay, so if we donate a couple of 2 times 4 can we raise the camera? Here's $5 to cover the lumber. Talking about the restaurant there, yeah.
Oh, we've got ideas. We've got ideas. Only 10 feet?
I think it's a cheeky one here asking, hi guys, donation to Dad's improved camera skills. Have you got any idea how hard this is? Rusty. I'm only reading it out because it's $2.
My thing is that it's hard to decide what to show a lot of the times, but we control the camera right now through a web interface, and you can only click one thing at a time. So it's like pan right, pan or tilt up, zoom in. You can only do one thing at a time. You can't do it nice and smooth like you had it on a tripod there. But this is a robotic camera 700 miles away from me. Come on.
I'm pretty sure he thinks you're literally behind this camera.
Yeah, no, hang on. I actually don't know exactly how far I don't think it's 700 miles. But the camera is a good distance away from me, and I'm controlling it from home right now. All the way down to Port Canaveral from Charlotte, North. I'm going to figure it out. I mean, hey.
You figure it out. We've got CA and P Railroad with $5. I just want to thank him because he didn't even leave a question or a remark. He just threw $5 at us. And you know what? If everyone did that, we'd be able to do this for years and years and years. Literally, the 2,000 plus people in here did that. So it just shows how much each one counts very much towards it. The Rusty can just came back. I am joking, guys. I know it's hard.
No, it's
that's a good community there, where even one who looks like he's having a go at us isn't. He's joking.
It's 500 miles for me to drive down there. It's straight line. It's 468 miles, but for me to drive down, it's 500 miles. And I'm controlling the camera remotely. We beat that record because when Michael tracked the launch the other day, Michael was all the way on the West Coast controlling the robotic camera at Port Canaveral and tracked the rocket launch without even, I don't even know if he had pants on. I don't know. He was at home all the way in California controlling the camera. So we're having way too much fun with these robotic cameras. I'll tell you that much.
Technology, eh? You wouldn't be able to do that 20 years ago.
Yeah, right. How does it work?
I've got some questions here which Gav can just join in on. I'm going to read them out. I'll put them on screen as well. Where is it? I literally just there we go. Have the fairing collection ships been fixed yet? It was from Martin. I literally clicked on it before I read his name. So we know that, Gav, we know that one of the fairing ships, which we saw with the fairing that broke through the net, was repaired at Moorhead, wasn't it? There's a Moorhead port involved here.
Yeah, so it's the port of Moorhead City in North Carolina. It's the closest port that can kind of support the SpaceX recovery ships. It's the closest port to the Starlink landing zones. Both ships diverted there after the mission on October 18th. They were there until pretty much the day of the Starlink mission that just happened on Saturday. They have been repaired. We saw photos of some of the catching arms being taken off and remounted. Probably what we think is that, obviously, because we saw a clip of it on the webcast where a fairing landed on one of the arms,
Yeah.
they probably want to just take that arm off, just sort of inspect the bolts and sort of just make sure that everything's still good, and then reattach it. Now, what we saw on the other ship, Mischief, was that one of the communications antennas on top of the wheelhouse, which is the bit of the front, people sometimes call it the bridge, but it's actually a wheelhouse on a ship of that size. We saw one of the antennas had been completely smashed. That, in Moorhead City, they took that off. They haven't replaced it yet, but they've taken away the damaged one. And both ships are now at Port Canaveral. They're kind of just off frame to the right at the moment. I saw some photos on Twitter earlier today that they're actually doing a bit of net maintenance at the moment. So they've got the catching nets sort of spread out on the dock. You can't see them, but yeah, there's the catcher ships that we've actually seen. And they're just repairing the nets now. They didn't do that. They just repaired the arms in Moorhead City, but they're just repairing the nets on the dock now. Now, what that actually involves, we don't really know, but that is what we saw them doing. They got all the nets spread out on the dock and just probably inspected them and just repairing holes and such.
And just really quickly, I saw that it looks like they started to move towards the cargo dock over there, so I pulled it back, and I think I've got it framed so the booster should go all the way across the frame and end up near that little orange bumper. Isn't that what that is, Gavin? The orange thing over there on the dock?
Yeah, I think it's officially called a space barge, and I only learned that myself recently. Forever I've been calling it a bumper or a wedge. But basically, what it is these drone ships, they have like wing extensions to make the landing area bigger. Because the way those wing extensions kind of work, it's kind of difficult to sort of moor the drone ship to the dock so it's secure.
Oh.
So that orange wedge you kind of see, which is basically a barge that's sort of half submerged in the water. They sort of push the drone ship against that, and then there's some mooring lines on there that's kind of just stabilizes the whole drone ship and secures the whole thing.
So you don't crush the wings up against the concrete dock. You actually have the bumper sort of spacing it off so the wings aren't directly contacting the dock.
Exactly,
is that right?
That, exactly.
Ah, I've already. There you go. I learned. I'm done. I learned something. See y'all later. I'm good. I learned my new fact for the day.
Every day's a school day. That's what I always say with this.
It really is.
I learn all the time. I've been doing this 15 years with the site, and there is not a day that goes by where we don't learn something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, hey everybody, live commentary here on the NASA Spaceflight stream. This is live from Port Canaveral, but none of the people talking are actually in Florida. On the line with us, we've got Chris Bergen, the founder, managing editor, big kahuna for NASA Spaceflight. You can see his information up there in the upper right-hand corner. Say hi so they can recognize your voice, Chris.
Thanks for making me joke about a choke on my drink there.
Hey, I don't have like an official style guide of what to call you, so I make it up every time.
The Yorkshire bloke.
Also on the line with us, we've got Gavin of SpaceXfleet.com. So, yeah, SpaceXfleet.com. I was making sure that I said it correctly there, but those are the voices. Gavin, say hi to everybody so they recognize your voice.
Hello, everybody.
There we go. So both Gavin and Chris are dialing in from across the pond today and doing some commentary as this booster gets, and now it's getting birthed, right? Technically, it's getting birthed. It's not docking, it's being birthed. Did I get that right?
Yeah, so docking is where the ship will park itself, whereas berthing is where it is docked. Not docked was the wrong word there.
Oh, wait, berthing is when it's docked?
Berthing is where it was docked, yeah, that's perfect. Great explanation. No, berthing is where the ship is assisted into its parking space. You see there's 3 tugboats there, 2 white ones and an orange and red one that are assisting the drone ship and berthing it into place. So drone ship is where docking is where it parks itself, and berthing is where tugboats will park it for you.
There you go. It's the same sort of thing. Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, that works in space as well, because that's when we say the Crew Dragon docks, because it does literally dock into the docking port itself. But a Cygnus mission is a berthing mission because it's grabbed by the robotic arm and pulled into the actual port itself. So that's how it works in space as well.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Chris. So
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
no. Hey, I was going to sort of prompt you and be like, right, Chris, and let you take it
Yeah.
away. So I didn't even need to. It's like you've done this before.
And I said, yeah, right, Daz. That's completely right. Let's go read out some quick questions so we don't get too far behind. We've got Franch who asks, do you know if there's someone tracking the average time between launch and recovery, transport, and all the phases of refurbishment? I can guarantee you there is somebody on our forum who is doing just that, because there's literally a horde of people who follow things with spreadsheets and religiously, probably on Reddit as well. There'll be so many people. I will envision to look for it and link it into the chat if I can before we finish this chat, because I know there will be someone doing that. Anita Walsher asks, hey guys, I've learned so much the past few months by watching your streams. Thanks for everything you do. Keep up the good work. I love to watch it. I think the rest of the question got chopped off, but it was more of a statement of thanks, and I very much appreciate that. Astro Boy SpaceX, good username. What is the expected number of time they can reuse a booster? Now, they were looking at 10, weren't they? We've got as far as 6, I believe, is the record so far for reuse. And I will say one thing, the boosters that are giving them trouble, which were the recent delay to the Crew 1 mission, not related to Crew 1's booster, but because of the commonality with the new boosters, is because they are not flown boosters, they are new boosters. The flight-proven boosters are the ones that are doing quite well. They're having no issues. So that when we say used boosters, people tend to think second-hand, oh, that's not very good. It's not. It's flight-proven. And that actually gives them some kind of record saying, I have flown into space and come back and I've been fine. I've performed well. So there's a change in the way the mentality is towards reuse, where beforehand some companies such as NASA or the US Air Force would be like skeptical about using a reused booster, to be like saying, we want a brand new booster for our satellite or our payload. Now, the sea changes, sea change, pun intended, is that they are now looking towards the positives behind flight proven boosters. So we're at 6. We've always heard the number 10 as far as their goal of reuse. I don't know if they'll ever get to 10 next year, maybe. It might be pushing it. Maybe with Starlink launches, they might get there, because they have got a refined number of boosters. They're not building new boosters unless they're really demanded by the customer. We used to see pictures of factory floor in Hawthorne where they had lines of Falcon 9 boosters lined up, ready to go. Now they're rotating through this stable of boosters where they've literally reused them mainly for Starlink, but they will be hoping not to lose one, let's put it that way. They'll have enough allowances to lose one, but they will not aim to lose too many now because they're using these boosters. I'm going to quickly shut up now because they are close to birthing.
I feel like we need a sound effect that goes like thunk or something when it connects.
Slowly bringing it in. Birthing is a very slow process. If you watch the fleet, if you're watching Fleet Cam, you'll know that it can be quite slow. Ships moving around, so they will get there. But it'll be slow and steady, and they'll carefully maneuver it against the dock.
You know what? There's a question here from Chris Bergen from York, who asks.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, he asks. He didn't do a super chat, which is very, very stingy of him. He asks, that grey crane which they use to recover the booster now to bring it off the barge, how long have they had that there? For some reason, I'm getting memories of a normal rented crane they had there to pull the boosters off the barge, off the drone ship. I should say, don't call them barges, off the drone ship. How long have they had that grey crane now? It looks like it's more of a permanent thing.
I think they've had that since mid-2019, because there used to be a yellow crane there, which was there from day one when they started trying to recover boosters in 2016. But they've had this grey crane since mid last year. Now that crane, it's not actually owned by SpaceX, it's owned by Port Canaveral. They purchased it for the benefit of SpaceX and also Blue Origin, who eventually might be bringing New Glenn to Port Canaveral for recoveries. We can talk about that a bit later on, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
That crane is owned by Port Canaveral. It primarily spends most of its time with SpaceX. They use it quite a lot. But it does sometimes move around. It's on wheels. It does move around. So it can go all the way around the north side area of the port, because sometimes it also helps out with standard merchant ships that bring in containers and bits and pieces like that. But most of the time, it spends sitting where it is currently now, just waiting for SpaceX boosters to arrive, and it unloads them. It's actually been quite busy this last week. So it's been hooked up to the booster that came in last week for the last Starlink mission. I don't remember what number booster that is. Anyone remember?
51. There was
51?
58 was in port. 51. I have so many boosters. I gotta look it up.
Yeah.
We need those spreadsheets we mentioned.
Yeah, I had 51 and I had 60 and 58. So the most recent one that they just rolled out was 60, I believe. Nope, 60. This is 60 right here. That's coming in. So it would have been 51. Is the one that was laying there for a couple days.
51.6.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so this crane was hooked up to 51.6 for all of last week, and then it spent its time hooked up over the weekend. Now, what a lot of people say is that when they see this crane, they're actually a bit worried, because the boom, which is the white and red bit as we zoom out, it kind of looks like it's bent, and which people get all worried about when they see it. If you look at it, it looks a bit bent, doesn't it? But it is actually it is by design. It's not crooked. It's not about to snap in half and drop the booster. It is bent like that by design.
Heck, we should know about cranes by now with all the Boca Chica coverage. I wonder, we need to give it a name. We'll have to get Jack to give it a name.
Oh yeah, it does need a name. It doesn't
have a name.
How can it be a crane if it doesn't have a name?
But that's interesting that it's on wheels, because that's when you mentioned it's also used by Blue Origin, which is next door, literally. Well, will be when Blue Origin actually launch something. It's on wheels, so it can just literally go back. Because I thought it was a permanent fixture. So there we go. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it is on wheels. It moves couple of miles per hour. But yeah, it primarily stays where it currently is because that's just where the SpaceX wants it for the Falcon 9. But previously, it has moved up and down. So on the left, you see those two big white cranes. Those are the container cranes. SpaceX doesn't use those because they're primarily designed for those shipping containers, which are those blue and red crates you see in the background. But sometimes the grey mobile crane, it's actually moving now, which probably means that SpaceX is going to hook up to it today. That was something fun to watch. So that was good timing. But yeah, no, that crane does move around. It moves to the other side of those two white gantry cranes. It just goes everywhere because the idea is that Blue Origin will eventually move their recovery ship to Port Canaveral, and they'll unload New Glenn using this crane as well.
And as is what is typical for our communities, we've already got names. We've got Fleetzilla, Portzilla, Greyzilla, another Portzilla.
I quite like Portzilla.
Oh, Portzilla winning. Yeah, if we could stop copying, says the original person. Boots.
It's like everything is a Zilla.
Yeah.
Oh, look, you got the. We can see what they're picking up, and you can also see the practice Dragon capsules in the background.
It looks like they're going for the United Rentals boom lift.
Yeah, sometimes we see those.
I've never seen them before.
No, never seen SpaceX with any of those guys. What they do if they are going for that boom lift, which is kind of hard to tell because the angle it kind of makes it all a bit blur into one. What they'll do is they'll probably lift that boom lift onto the deck of just read the instructions, and from there they can sort of look at the legs, they can make connections and sort of just work on the booster. But is that what they're going for? They're certainly working on something.
It's cool to see though. We're literally just—it's like we're at the other side of the actual port there, where we can just watch it in our binoculars.
Yeah.
They're hooking up, and he's just basically giving them the old instructions to the crane operator now, isn't he?
You can see him sort of waving. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at. Yeah.
I gotta keep reminding people how much zoom this camera has, right? So we start way over here. And then when you zoom in on these operations, this camera does have a pretty significant reach.
That is good, yeah.
There's one that's robotic that has about double the reach that I'm trying to get budget for, boss.
Super chats, everyone, quick. Daz is spending money.
Das stays up at night trolling camera listings, looking for cameras to install places.
Speaking of super chats, there's a segue. Thank you to Barbara for your support. Very much appreciated. We've got another one from, I can't pronounce your name because it sounds quite Norwegian. But he says, can't wait to see the Super Heavy. When will they ship back and forth with a sea platform? Yeah. Now he's talking about SpaceX's plans to launch and land Super Heavy boosters, the ones with the 28 engines. Oh my god! First of all, Andrew Carmel with his $100, as he always does, which he shouldn't do because he's done so much already. But thank you, Andre, very much appreciated. Yeah, Super Heavy is planning to be launched outside of the land launch site at Boca Chica because 28 Raptors would cause a significant amount of noise and to a point where they'd have to evacuate probably South Padre Island. So that is not viable for them to launch the big Super Heavy from land. They're going to launch from an ocean platform. What kind of ocean platform is questionable? We don't know yet. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. But when they recover them and ship them out, in fact, ship them out for launch and recover them back after they've landed, that is an interesting thing. I'm going to ask Gav while Andre is spamming money at us. Andre, stop. Thank you very much. It really is appreciated, but you do too much as it is. Let's spread it out with the community. Anyone who can do, but don't go over the top because we do know it's a lot of money for people to spend in this day and age. I'm going to ask Gav what he thinks, and it might be an unfair question, of how they will implement this ocean-based recovery and operation for Super Heavy at Boca Chica.
Yes, I'm not too sure myself either. We could wildly speculate, but we don't really have much information. Now, there are a lot of abandoned oil rigs, sort of old oil rigs, out in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, would SpaceX want to convert one of those, or they want to sort of launch their own kind of thing?
Yeah, that's why I thought it was an unfair question, because we do not know much about it. We're hoping Elon is going to do an update. He's not going to do his presentation like last year, and I expect that's probably sensible given the COVID situation. But he's going to do a written update. He said on the SpaceX website, and he said next week. He said it last week, so we're expecting it in a few days to come. Whether or not that will slip until later, we don't know. But hopefully, in his update, he did state that there's not a lot to update on the actual design because he has cover list on the design as we've seen with the test vehicles at Boca Chica. But we're hoping he might mention a bit more about Super Heavy. And if he does talk a bit more about Super Heavy, then he'll be looking at maybe talking about the recovery operations and launch operations with an ocean platform. Because as you said, it's only the occasional replies on Twitter we get a lot of clues from. Aside from that, there's not any official updates from SpaceX. It is literally Elon replying to tweets on Twitter that we get the official updates on things related to Super Heavy and Starship.
That's interesting. Both the tugs are headed out. Christine and I don't know if that was Eagle that just went past us, but I wonder if they have something else to do out there. Normally they go back up to the North Pier and dock, but there goes the pilot as well. You can't see it, but that thing that just came across the bottom is the pilot boat. Huh.
Yeah, there are a couple of other ships in port at the moment. Perhaps one of those wants to leave.
Yeah, that big Bastille Street, that big tanker that is at the middle basin over there. Chris, we were looking at that, and I looked up the stats on it, and you could lay a fully stacked Super Heavy, the booster and the Starship, on the front deck of that oil tanker that parked over there. If that leaves, that'll be something to see. That's a big ship.
The scale of these things are ridiculous. I think when you put into context with that oil rig, that oil tanker, I should say, it does help a lot because people know things are big and they know things are tall, they know things are large, but until you give it to put it against something where people can say, I know how big an oil rig is, oil tanker. I keep on saying oil rig for some reason. How big an oil tanker is, then they can appreciate how big a Super Heavy booster is. So I thought that was great.
I was watching for this to take off, I mean, that's why we're zoomed in on it. I figured they would be flying this thing soon. Then we'll go back over to the booster and look at it. But if y'all want me to point anything specific, just let me know. I can point the camera at whatever we want.
Well, in this shot we're looking at right now, there's a rather dragon-looking vehicle on the left side of the view.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
There's
one of
actually
their
two of
test
them.
recovery. Yeah, they use that to splosh in the water and practice the recovery onto the nest. Is it Go Searcher? Oh,
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
2 capsules there. One of them is the high fidelity exterior capsule, which I think is the one on the left, and then the one on the right, I believe, is the SpaceX egress trainer. So that one is fleshed out on the interior. They are sitting there at the back port. Normally, you can see them on the decks of Go Searcher and Go Navigator, who are the 2 Dragon recovery ships. They're normally on the deck because those 2 ships are near constantly training for the real event. They're currently sitting on the dock because they were taken off a few days ago because those 2 ships were sent out for fairing recovery, but were not actually needed, so they came back. But those 2 Dragon capsules at the back, they are the recovery trainers. They're the mock-ups, basically.
Here,
nice.
they're going to
And
get this
we've got
lift
a
out of the
launch.
way for you so you can see.
Launch.
Yeah.
Tell you what, it's a sign of how much United Rentals are involved that United Rentals' official Twitter account follows me. There's probably some boardroom meeting going, there's another Mary video drop. We're going to get some advertising for the Boca Chica man lifts. Oh, crew lifts, sorry.
Wow, and there's Lauren Foss as well. Look at those big exhaust stacks on the back of Lauren Foss. The top, I guess. Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow, they are exhaust pipes, aren't they?
Yeah. What are those, like 18-inch diameter pipes? That's ridiculous.
Wow.
Look how big they are. I never noticed that before. And we have the incredible flying boom lift there in the background as well.
It's all go.
While we're watching, I'm going to knock off these. I'm going to try and get this question queue because I do like to answer all the questions if we can. Not just super chats. Like I know a lot of streams just answer the super chats, but I like to answer as many questions as possible, regardless, because I think it's important. We've got Railroad asking, here's some more to advertise Fleet Clam. Yeah, everyone loves Fleet Clam. We've got Dougal with a blip. I think you're just doing a random word for your super chat there. We've got Robert Hobson. Daz is drinking Chris's milkshake budget. He drinks it up. Okay.
What? We appreciate you, Robert. Thank you. That's $50.
That's right. 77 with $4.99. Thank you very much. Fleet Cam 2.0. Everyone's talking about that camera you were talking about, that extended range one. Marcus Langer is a new member. Thank you for joining the team. Fireball free with what is heavy machinery flying? That's the thing we're watching now. That is a little crew lift where they used to slowly lift people towards things like boosters and whatever. We see them in Boca Chica all the time. We've got, oh yeah, and the person's whose name I can't pronounce, he says Icelandic. I knew it was around that kind of idea. I know it's annoying when people try to place where I am in this country, but yeah, there we go.
I think Elon needs to install
do a super chat. You need to do a super chat just to say that, by the way. You could just reply with that NASASpaceflight. And we've got to Maker IE with as a new member and his red team. So you'll get some nice preview videos out of that membership.
I was going to say, Chris, Elon needs to get out there and convert Lauren Foss to electric motors or something. That's a lot of black smoke rolling out of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
That's not healthy. There must be some. I mean, they're tugs, aren't they? So they're really powerful, but there must be some engines inside those things.
Yeah, Lauren Foss, I just had a quick look while you were talking. 8,200 horsepower she's got.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's 4,000 per stack. Those huge exhaust stacks are ridiculous. I'm gonna hold the camera steady until they land the boom lift on the deck there, and then we'll look around. We can look up and down the booster and zoom in on the legs and stuff like that, y'all.
Looks like the boom lift is nearly ready to make its landing.
Yeah. It's a Kato. It's a crane assisted takeoff for the boom lift there.
And this will be the fourth landing for this crane lift. Call it crane lift point 4.
Pioneering reuse of United Rentals equipment. All right, I think we can call that down, huh?
There must be some skill involved with these crane operators.
Oh gosh.
We saw that one video where Jack got the radio comms of the crane lifter for one of the starships. I can't remember which one it was now, but I think it was Mark 1 where they were taking the nose cone off, and the communication behind the people on the ground and the crane operator, it was like a military operation. They have to be for safety, for it, obviously, because there's people around. So that's the one thing. Never mind the machinery; it's the people in the vicinity of where they're doing the operations. Ooh, get a nice little pan down.
Yeah, somebody asked where the grid fins were, so they're there. Right there. Can't miss them. And I'm going to do the whole... Because this actually turns into a really nice video. Jack showed me how to stabilize these so that the camera sort of has a little bit of a beat to it. Like the way I send controls to the camera, it's like... It sort of pulses a little bit when it moves, but Jack can smooth that out so that it's like almost perfectly smooth. So we'll put this in the video here.
And while watching that, I'm going to do some more blatant advertising by mentioning our store. Did you know you can buy things related to fleet operations in our store? I personally got the beach towel, which I think is fantastic. When it wasn't as miserable as the weather is right now, I used to go out and just use it as like something to sit on. So it's a really nice quality product I can personally recommend because I've got it. So I'm going to put it in here. There's a store. I'm going to put a link to the Of Course I Still Lie Here beach towel, which it's actually, I don't know who thought that idea up, but it's fantastic. If I can get my internet. Oh, I need Starlink.
Trust me, I know what I'm doing. It looks really cool when you edit that, so that's why I panned all the way down like that. But we'll go straight back up and have a look-see what they're doing around the legs here, shall we?
There it is. I'm going to put this into chat. I'm not putting this to chat for people to buy it. You can buy it if you want, but just have a look at it. It's brilliant.
Is that the beach towel?
Yeah. It's actually really good quality. It's lasting as well. It's gone through several washes, and it's not disintegrated, but like some products where you buy online do. And there's Octograbber.
Yeah, I think in the video that Brady's working on, we actually got a time lapse of the Octograbber struts retracting.
Oh,
so
nice.
They're really slow, but we lucked out and we left the camera on it for a while. Right before they lifted it, you can actually see those robotic struts that connect up to the bottom of the booster. They sort of go bzzz down away from it. It's the coolest looking thing.
And to anybody who sent me a message or an email in the last half hour, I had my email client closed, and I've just got 120 emails arrive.
Wow.
In the last 30 minutes. So if you're waiting for a response from me and you're listening to this stream, please be patient. Operators are standing by.
Yeah, getting the people walking around really sort of does give you a sense of scale. Like a lot of people say, wow, I never really understood how big it was. You actually see the bell of one of the Merlin engines there right behind, peeking out from behind that forward leg that's sort of pointing at us. But look at the people walking around and the size of those legs. That's...
And there's your humans for scale. I always bring that up. Humans for scale. I think Elon likes that as well. He's retweeted a couple of humans for scale tweets from various people, including myself, but obviously other people as well. I think that is something that's good to get across. It's hard to appreciate how large these landing legs are. You see them pop out on videos, and you don't really get the context of how large they are because the booster's large itself, but the booster doesn't look particularly large on webcasts. But these are huge, huge structures, big struts, crush cores, and they're just landing in the middle of these drone ships. It's really incredible, and I hope people appreciate how hard it is to pull it off. There's geniuses behind this. This is Trip Harris and Lars Blackmore from England. He's working at SpaceX. He's now working on the Starship landing recovery. So this technology we've seen here now, these lessons learned, these flight profiles, these landing profiles are all being inputted into towards Starship program. That's why I've got a lot of hope about Starship. They will have failures. This test program, failures will happen. But with the people involved with these successful recoveries now involved with Starship as well, I think that gives me a lot of hope that they'll not leave any stone unturned and they'll refine it to the point where they can have some successes. And this will be with a fully reusable, super heavy launch vehicle. And that will change everything. That will really change everything. That will make so many opportunities towards beyond Earth orbit exploration that I am beyond excited about that.
Chris, some breaking news on Starship right now. Just now, you know how we had the road closures scheduled for tomorrow and the next 2 days, basically 28th, 29th, 30th. Those information from the county says those road closures at Boca Chica have been canceled.
Wow, there we go.
So
that's not unexpected. Yeah. That's not terrible. That's just something where they're getting everything right before these next static fire test campaign, which will be where they take fuel from the header tank. And obviously they just installed Nurse Cone just a few days ago, so it's not too unsurprising that they're still working on making sure all the plumbing and everything's working fine, and then they'll go for these static fire tests second phase before any kind of like flight test, which will be about a few weeks away at least by now.
Yeah, I just put that on the screen really quickly. Those 3 closures have all been canceled.
All been canceled. Oh, right. Sorry, I heard the first one canceled, but all 3 are canceled. Right. Okay.
Yeah, across the board there. So we were planning. I think we were planning on looking at static fires and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it looks like that's going to push back just a bit. There's that hurricane out there in the Gulf that may be affecting operations. Not supposed to hit Boca Chica, but it is bringing some high winds and rain through the area. I wonder if that may be affecting their production schedule out there.
Could be. The amount of hurricanes, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
This must be some kind of record year or something. I keep hearing about it every week.
I think we're not quite there yet. I think we have
one storm off, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Yep. You got it, Gavin. So whatever y'all want to do with the camera, if you want me to point at the other ships that are here, like Gavin, if there's something you want me to shoot at, like let me know. We can keep watching the leg operations. We'll probably see them get the boom lift up around the legs as they sort of work on processing this. Or we can look around port, whatever you want me to do.
Yeah, so shall we just zoom out a bit and see what Portzilla is doing?
We've named it. That's it.
It's its name now. It's stuck forever.
It's gone back over to that same area, and I wonder if it's going to be getting that cap.
Yeah. Lauren Foss is kind of parked in the room. I think, are they going for the second one, or are they taking the chains in?
It looks like they've got the 4 straps on there, and when they fly the lifts, I think they have 4 straps that they put on. The first thing that they did was they took it out of like a crate. So the boom went down to this little crate that was on the ground, and then they took those straps out of the crate, it looked like. And now it looks like they are hooking up that second lift. What a thing to be commenting on live.
Yeah.
And now we see them hooking up the second lift. Pretty soon we'll be seeing that fly over to the drone ship as we await the blah, 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 blah. Like, make it a lot more exciting than it actually
You know what? It is more exciting than it actually is, because if you think about it, if you're some random punter on the internet who may be interested in rockets and stuff, and you put up saying, right, we're gonna cover this booster coming back into Port Canaveral live, they'll go, oh, that's interesting. I'll watch it 5 minutes. But I found this interesting all the way through so far. You know, it's there's always something going on, and when you put into the context of this being a recovered rocket, a recovered orbital rocket that's landed on a drone ship out in the Atlantic Ocean and recovered back, I don't know. I just find that surreal. I still find it really surreal, even though it's happened so many times now. I don't think I've put in tweets when we do these landing coverage on SpaceX webcast live, where they show the boots coming down on the drone ship. And we take a clip and we tweet it out saying another successful landing. I usually put things like, and it's still not getting boring. Because it isn't. It's still amazing. And I think it always will be.
And then you get an exciting moment where the camera mount lets loose and you think the entire thing is falling over into the ocean. You're like, what happened?
Yeah.
I want to see if I can get I think I can. Oh, did they move? It actually looks like they moved. Which one was that? Oh, they have them lined up.
Yeah, they're all stacked together.
Look at
I'll tell you,
that.
I'll tell you a good thing about this. So, Go Searcher and Go Navigator, which are the two white ones on the outside, though they've both got helipads, but those helipads actually stick out wider than the ship. So you can't dock Go Searcher and Go Navigator onto each other. You have to have GoQuest in the middle, like a little bit of a sandwich. So if our camera was sort of rotated so we could see sort of down the ship, what you'll see is that GoQuest's deck is like completely covered by the combined helipads off Go Search and Go Navigator.
That's cool. I'd never seen them lined up like this before, you know?
Yeah, they've had to do it because they needed the space next door to actually, what's the word, birth the drone ship. They needed the space. So originally, earlier on, before we went live, they had Go Searcher was just docked where Costa Love Unit, not Costa Love Unit, just read the instructions drone ship now is. So they've sandwiched themselves in like this just to make more room.
You know what, Gav? There's another question from Chris Bergen from York here.
Oh,
Who
yeah.
asks, yeah, does SpaceX own these vehicles?
They don't. These three, they all start with Go Searcher, Go Quest, Go Navigator. The Go actually it stands for Geis Offshore.
All right.
They are the owners and operators of these ships, and then essentially SpaceX charter them. So the crew that actually run the ship, I think it's about 5 people per ship. They're essentially contractors for SpaceX. But SpaceX doesn't own or operate these ships because SpaceX doesn't need to. They're not in the maritime business. It's far easier to just contract out the work rather than pay for staff, pay for maintenance. It's far easier to just contract that out to a company that's already pre-established and knows what they're doing, and then you just configure the ships as you want. So Go Searcher and Go Navigator used to be green as well. So GoQuest is green because green is the colour of the owner operator Geis Offshore. But they painted Go Searcher and Go Navigator for the sake of making them look good on the webcasts for the recovery.
There's no vanity involved there, is there?
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
I just want to quickly thank Blake Parsons for his 22 Australian dollars. Thank you very much. 23, in fact, 'cause it's 22.99. You're a regular supporter, so again, very much appreciated. Quickly get through a couple of these questions here. Kaz Irving asks, why can't there be 2 launches at the same time at the Cape? Well, they technically can, but not at the same time. Not like Armageddon, where they launch 2 shuttles at the same time. Oh, duh. That was not impossible, would you believe? I always joke, oh, we can't launch 2 shuttles at the same time. They could have launched them at the same time because they've got 2 firing rooms, 2 pads, 2 vehicles, and they could do it. But it'd just be incredibly dangerous and pointless. So that's why they don't do it. As far as 2 launches at the same time, there will be some separation. I think the range is now reconfigured to the point where it can launch on the same day with 2 from 2 different pads. But launching 2 rockets at the same time, as in taking word for word, no, I think it'd be incredibly dangerous, and I don't see the reason why they need to. It's not like the Agena launch where they launch a Saturn straight after and trying to, anything like that. The Agena rendezvous mission where they had to launch very fast towards each other so they could do a rendezvous docking test. It's not like that. That was needed. That was an objective. The normal launches from the Cape are satellite launches, and they can just launch them on a range schedule where they space them out. So the range assets are all concentrated towards one particular launch at a time.
And Chris, really quickly before I move on from this shot, the reason I framed it this way is you can actually see a launch pad off in the background. So SLC-40 is over there on the right-hand side. Yeah. I thought that was a cool sort of framing there. If you look right underneath that conveyor, it's like some sort of conveyor crane that moves, I don't know, gravel around or something. And right underneath that, from our view, we can see Pad 40 there in the background. Those 4 lightning towers visible. No rocket right now.
I'll preempt a question we always get is, what are those 4 things sticking out? They are lightning protection system towers. Every pad's got them in different ways. Some have them on top of their pad structure, like Blue Origin's new pad has got 1 large lightning tower and 1 on its fixed service structure. Shuttle had 1 on its fixed service structure, and also on 39B, they now have 3 very large 600-foot lightning protection tower systems. They are literally there for the reason they are named. They are to protect the rocket from a lightning strike. The lightning strike will be attracted towards the towers rather than the pointy vehicle on the pad.
I mean, that was again complete dumb luck that we were even able to see Pad 40 from here. We installed this so that we could watch the boosters come in and the booster processing and that sort of stuff. And then we got to see the fairing catchers. And then we realized we could see a launch pad. And there's so many little bonuses to having the fleet cam out there. It looks like the other lift is on its way over to the drone ship.
Oh yeah, for the launch.
Yes, there's no guarantee, but when we see them lift multiple boom lifts like this onto the drone ship, that is normally an indication that they'll retract the landing legs on the drone ship. Now, what SpaceX has been doing recently is, in the past, they would lift the booster off the drone ship with that crane, and they put it onto the dockside stand, which is currently sort of hiding behind some containers. And then they retract the landing legs there. Now, what we've seen them do in the last couple of months is they've changed the process a bit, and sometimes they start retracting the landing legs while it's still on the drone ship. Now, how they do that is they actually use Octograbber as the stand. So they attach the crane at the very top, and then at the bottom they have Octograbber holding it up, and then they slowly retract all 4 landing legs while it's still on the drone ship. Now, when we see them lift these boom lifts, that's usually an indication that they're doing that so they can actually get to the landing legs to process them. But that isn't always a guarantee, because we've sometimes seen them put the boom lifts on and then lift the booster off anyway. We don't quite understand yet how they decide whether they're going to retract the landing legs on the drone ship or on the dockside stand. We think it's something to do with scheduling about how soon that drone ship needs to go back out for the next mission, but we haven't quite pinned it down just yet.
And that is literally part of the question which has been asked there by on here, which says, how do they process the RTLS boosters? That is a different operation. Obviously, they're on land. We've seen the post-flight safing, post-landing safing of the booster on the LZ pad, which is a lot of venting involved. You see venting literally seconds after it lands. And that then saves the vehicle to the point that people can approach it, and then they get a crane rolled out there, and they put it onto the what's called the orbiter transport system. It's been repurposed by SpaceX, and it's been given a white paint job and a new structure on top. But that is literally the same vehicle that was used to transport orbiters from the OPFs to the VAB. When they landed, they rolled them back on the wheels. It was called on wheels rollback. But roll out to, roll over was the actual word he used. Roll over to the VAB was not on the wheels. The wheels were securely inside the vehicle, ready for the launch. And that's when they literally seal up the vehicle. So they were put on this orbiter transport system to the VAB. And that vehicle, that orange vehicle you'll see in pictures of orbiters being moved, has now been repurposed to SpaceX to transport Falcon 9 boosters.
Yeah, that transport you mentioned was actually here at Port Canaveral just this morning, and it took away B1051.6, which has been sitting on the dock over the weekend. So the transporter came down yesterday afternoon. I think it was on Fleet Cam. Was it on Fleet Cam, Das? You see there? Okay, well, it probably was.
Sorry. I was answering another question over here. So what was the question again, Kevin? I apologize.
Yeah, did you catch the transporter on Fleet Cam?
Oh, we catch everything.
Yeah, we catch everything.
Yes, so we saw them early this morning. I just offloaded those videos, and we saw them pick the booster up with some cranes, and it sort of was hovering back behind, I think it was Searcher over in the way. And then we sort of saw it moving around in the background, and we got it rolling all the way out past the back of the port, all the way around the corner, behind the oil tanks there on its way in the Cape Canaveral Air Force gate there. So we've got all that video. I pulled that off the server just earlier today before the stream, and we should have that in the processing flow video. We're working on, we're getting all these videos, and I've been doing some time lapses if you've seen me tweeting them, but we're working on doing full processing flow time lapses for a booster. So it's oh, here's 1051, and here's the launch, and then here's it coming in, and then here's them loading it off and laying it down. And the entire flow, we're trying to get videos that show that whole flow for these missions, and it looks really cool.
Just to answer a few questions here, we've got Airbus asking, is Octograph being used on this? I don't see it. Yeah, it's being used, and you can see it. It's where you got to look. You got to look at the yellow outer markings on the drone ship and go to the far right hand side. Then look under the landing legs. You'll see the white arms of Octograbber raised up to the attach points. And that is the robot which rolls out the little garage, grabs hold, and has those arms which point up towards the base of the Falcon 9 booster. In the Octaweb, which is why we call it Octograbber. I think there was some claims it was called Optimus Prime on Reddit, but we know a few SpaceXers who were involved and they said no, it's called Octograbber. So that's why we call it Octograbber. It's literally been named by the SpaceXers, not us. So that was one way.
Yeah,
crane.
I think there was once a job posting on the SpaceX website for an operator. I think they called it the Falcon 9 securing robot. But then in the job description, they just use the word Octograbber instead because that's a bit too long. So SpaceX definitely call it Octograbber.
Basically, down below the booster here, do you see the yellow of the edge of the deck? And then just above that, there's like a white beam that has a row of holes in it, right? That's the base of Octograbber. And most of the white that you see connected to that, they're sort of shadowed, but the white struts that go up and connect from that white beam that has the holes in it up to the rocket, those are all pieces of Octograbber. There's a bunch of stuff in the way, like that water container, if that's what that is, and that sort of thing. But those are the pieces of Octograbber you can see.
We've got a question from Ed Duncan who gives us a segue into the Blue Origin side of things, who asks what type of boat Blue Origin is using to recover New Glenn. Do you think there were people on the ship? He's talking about the Stenner ship, isn't he, Gav? I can't remember the full name, but it was a Stenner something.
Yeah, it was the Stenner something. So it's a RoRo ship, which stands for roll on, roll off. It was used for ferry services in Europe. So the idea is you drive your coach, lorry, truck in America, car. I'm converting for the audience. You drive your vehicle onto the RoRo ship, and then it sails across the sea to mainland Europe. I think it did a route from the United Kingdom to Europe for quite a few years. That is the ship. It's an enormous ship. If you compare it to the size of a SpaceX drone ship, it completely dwarfs it. It is huge in person. It is currently in Pensacola, Florida, which is... Where is that? It is it's on the Gulf of Mexico coastline. It's on the west coast of Florida, sort of near the Alabama border. The ship is up there. It's been up there for about a year and a half. Anyone know that?
It's been a while. I know. We followed it as soon as we saw first sighting of it. And we know there's people who occasionally go and visit it to see how the modifications are going. And there was very little modifications apart from on deck, which is not obviously the main part of the changes to implement on it.
I think sort of December last year, there was sort of an interview with someone at Blue Origin, and they'd said that obviously you couldn't see much on the exterior, but they've completely stripped out the interior of this ship, clearing out for the changes they need to make. But I think that was a couple of years' work still on the thing. It's called LPV now, which I think stands for Landing Platform Vessel, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said yes because I recognise that, but I'm no expert. I should be asking you that.
Yeah.
And Gavin, it looks like Christine and Elizabeth are working over there on the big tanker Bastille Street. They've got a pilot up as well, so I'm going to turn the camera that way real quick and see if they are preparing to pull that oil tanker out. Just
to finish off the Octograbber part, while we're doing that, is it remote controlled? We're asked, and yes, it is remote controlled. It's not automated. I think there's some automation to it, but it is literally driven by remote control. And I'd love to interview the person whose job that is. What's your job description? I'm the Octograbber remote control operator. Wow, that camera moves.
Yeah, I like it. 200 degrees per second it can move. And look at that. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but that big tanker Bastille Street is actually leaving port right now. The tugs are on the far side, and it is rolling out.
It is enormous.
Yeah. When it gets clear into the middle basin there, I'll zoom back over towards it, but that ship is 180 meters long. And doing the math, we think we could put a fully stacked Starship and Super Heavy booster on the forward deck of this thing. So I would love to see that. Like a Falcon 9, I think, would look tiny on this ship. and it is a big ship getting ready to leave Port Canaveral there. God, it's not exactly why we're here, but I just like that stuff. That's really cool to see.
Big boosters, we like big ships.
Yeah.
That figures.
Camera goes really slow when I leave it at that setting, so you can get a little bit of the deck of rusties there. You can see people down there enjoying some what is it, lunch, almost dinner, afternoon, whatever time it is.
Hunter Kuntz asks, have there been any buyers of the flip-flops, the Mars flip-flop from the store? Yes, we did sell a pair. So when we joked about the fact that no one had bought those flip-flops in the store, a person did later that evening. So we have sold one pair of Mars flip-flops from our store.
The exclusive owner of the set of Mars flip-flops that have been sold.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's him, actually. I'm going to have to check back.
They're fishing for a shout-out there.
Yeah. I don't want them, but I'm buying them so I can get a shout-out. And Reddy asks, what are those white lines in the suit across the booster? Those are from the previous inspections. That's what I was talking about before. They don't clean the actual booster after they land them ahead of the next launch. All they'll do is they'll scrub a line out along the weld lines, and that's what we see, like pinstripes. And they are literally the weld marks, and they've got to inspect the booster at those points. They have to clean the soot off. And that's what we're seeing there. They are literally inspection points.
Yeah, I got that zoomed in over there. I learned that last time the last booster came into port, but it's really obvious, those inspection lines where they sort of scrub it down or whatever, so they can make sure those welds are all still good. You can see the individual sheets that the body of the Falcon 9 is made from by looking at where those lines go. And then imagine each one of those is a piece of metal that gets formed into the body and the tankage of the Falcon 9.
And Edward asks, are the people on deck of the drone ship employees of SpaceX, or are they contractors? Now that plays back into what Gav was talking before, with the ship operations being contractors and contracted ships. I do believe there will be some actual SpaceXers now involved with the operations involving the recovery of the booster. I don't know if you can confirm that, Gav.
Yeah, so SpaceX employees are essentially the passengers on these ships. So all the people we see on frame now working, they will be the SpaceX employees, and when we're looking at the sports ships like all the Go Searcher, Go Quest, Go Navigator, most people you'll see on board those, they'll be SpaceX employees, and then there'll be a small group of the contractors who are actually driving the boats. But most people will be SpaceX employees.
Yeah, I saw one of them with a SpaceX shirt on walking around.
That's usually a sign, yeah.
Yeah.
When I go to the gym, my Falcon 9 booster, my Falcon Heavy t-shirt, people don't usually think it must work for SpaceX. But when you're out with a booster with a SpaceX t-shirt, I think that's more likely you are a SpaceX employee.
When you're standing on the drone ship with the t-shirt on, that's a pretty good indicator.
Yeah, that's your nameplate.
So this is the sort of part where it starts to slow down just a little bit. It's really cool seeing it come in. But next up, I was checking the crane there to see if they were bringing the cap over, but the crane boom had just retracted and it did not have a cap on it. So I am not sure exactly the timing with this. It's 4:06. I think 4:06 is plenty of time for them to attach to it, but we can't say for sure exactly what they're going to do today. Does anybody have any guesses on whether or not they'll get that cap up there sooner rather than later?
Let's have a look at what the crane's doing, then I'll make my guess.
Yeah, I had just checked on that, and there we'll get it back again. It looks like they've raised it back up to the stowed position there, which is sort of where it hangs out.
Yeah, I reckon we're probably no more lifting today for that crane. I would guess they'll probably put the cap on in the morning.
Yeah, because with Octograbber, I mean, the booster isn't just sort of sitting there; it is being held by Octograbber on the drone ship there. So, I mean,
it's definitely secure.
Yeah.
What I would suggest is maybe that we probably close out the commentary and just go to the fleet clam now, because my stomach is rumbling. If I don't eat
dinner time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate.
I may faint live on air.
Don't do that. So that is probably a good plan. This is the part where it slows down just a little bit. Of course, SpaceX is going to be over there continuing to work, and we have been. I mean, I don't know how long I'll get away with calling it an alpha test. The fleet cam has been up since October 19th, so we're over a week now. I was calling it an alpha test, and I've got a couple other things that I need to get installed and configured. But fleet cam has been live 24/7 over on a dedicated channel. And we don't have commentary over on that channel, but if you want to watch what's going on at Port Canaveral, usually some NASA spaceflight crew members are here in chat. We can still answer questions in chat. Myself or Michael or other people, Julia, may be able to point the camera around, look at different things if things are going on. But I believe for now it may be an opportune time for us to spool down the live commentary. Does that sound like a good plan, y'all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So again, y'all, we are not going to completely shut down the feed. You can continue to watch if you head on over to the Fleet Cam channel. Here is the Fleet Cam channel right here on YouTube. You can pop over that way and have a look. Whatever Fleet Cam sees here, whatever we bring it in for a commentary broadcast, I'm just taking a copy of the feed, and so you will see the exact same thing at the exact same quality with a little bit better ambient noise over there. No commentary on this stream, but we do hang out in chat on occasion. But really quickly, that was booster 1060.3 or -3. We just saw it arrive back into Port Canaveral here. Joined with me on the stream today, we had Chris Bergen, NASA Spaceflight Actual. Chris, thank you so much for hanging out with us here this afternoon, evening for you.
A pleasure as always.
Excellent. And then our special guest, Gavin, SpaceXfleet.com, doing some commentary talking about the fleet as well, Gavin. So I have a feeling we'll see you around some fleet cam streams a little bit more in the future, you think?
Definitely.
Good deal. Well, Gavin and Chris, thank you all so much for joining us doing our live commentary of B1060's return to port here. With NASA Spaceflight, I'm John Galloway. If you see me over on Twitch, you may know me as DOS. And we will be signing off of our live commentary stream. Again, you don't have to go home. You can continue watching the live Fleet Cam over on its dedicated Fleet Cam channel. I am K-Space Academy there in chat, putting that link up if you want to visit that. But thanks everybody for the support. Again, we're able to do this because of y'all's support. You show up to the streams, you like and subscribe, you retweet things, you ask good questions in chat, and the financial support as well. When you do the super chats and memberships and all the different ways you can support the stream, that's what allows us to pay for bandwidth and cameras, and then more cameras, and then some additional cameras, and then my trips to Home Depot, which allows me to buy hardware to attach cameras to things. So I specifically really appreciate all the support that we get so that we can continue bringing this live coverage from all over to y'all, sharing in the excitement that is spaceflight operations. But for now, Chris, Gavin, thank y'all one more time so much for joining us with live commentary here.
Thanks, Daz.
Pleasure as always.
Alrighty. And folks, that ends the live stream commentary. Again, head on over to that Fleet Cam channel if you would like to keep watching the no commentary Fleet Cam. But NASA Spaceflight signing off here, and we will see you nerds later. Thanks so much for joining us. Mics are clear.
Great work, Gav.
Yeah, cheers for that. Sorry for my
Propulsion continues to be normal.
Alright, the chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll with planet. Water towers fly! Flight downside of speed off. Speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Wait, are the mics clear now? Wrong audio source. All right, fine.